lives. PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, the Star Wars podcast, featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always.
Welcome everybody to a new episode of Holy Snokes. What are you doing here?
It's my channel. Come on. What the hell?
It's my episode.
It is your episode. I can stop and make an appearance and say hi to the folks. I mean, my name is on the tin. They expect to see me, don't they?
I guess. All right. Say your piece.
I want to say that I am looking forward to watching this. Because you're right, I'm not going to be on this episode because, quite frankly, if I was going to be on this episode, I would have to sit down and do a very long rewatch of all the stuff to really make a better sense. I love what you're covering today. I love those films. I just haven't watched them all in enough time. I didn't have enough time in between to do a deep dive, which I would prefer to have done if I was going to make any sense in my conversations. So, Matty, I'm going to leave this one to you, and I can't wait to see what you do with it because obviously this is a very big connectivity here with Star Wars and the main man, Kurosawa. So do us proud. Hope you guys love this show, and maybe you love the show even without me. Maybe you love it even more without me. Leave those comments and let me know. Maybe I'll just stay off the show from now on.
The views are gonna skyrocket.
Skyrocket. That's right, skyrocket. I will see you next time in Holy Snokes when I do the news episode. So, Matty, have a great show. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, I will see you next week.
Right.
Okay, right. Now that he's gone. God, I had enough of him yesterday when we were doing class action for an hour and a half. Jeez. Right. So as I said, welcome to a new episode of Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast. I am your host for the week, Matty Gunner. PLD, as he said, he will be back next week for the news episode. For those of you who may not know, Holy Snokes, we are a Star Wars podcast. A lot of the time we do your general after show discussing, the episodes of the week, the themes around them, and we kind of were running a bit thin on what we could discuss, and we did a bit of a reshuffle, a little bit of a reformat. I am a lot better at talking about the connectivity, the themes, the more artistry side of Star Wars and just movies in general. And PLD is very much he loves to talk about the news and the business side of things, which is, it's not my strong suit. So we figured we're going to give this a try for a few weeks and see how we like it. And I figured with the 40th anniversary of Kurosawa's film Ran coming up this month, actually, I believe, what better to talk about than the man himself, Akira Kurosawa, a man who is his imprint on not just Star Wars, but cinema cannot be understated. Not only the likes of George Lucas, but, inspired people like Martin Scorsese. Great cinema, great filmmaker, in my opinion, in many people's opinion, but more of a, because this is my episode, in my opinion, the greatest filmmaker, the greatest storyteller of all time. So let's get into it. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about the man himself. Akira Kurosawa, a man whose career he spanned, about 60 years, I believe. 30 films in 60 years. He was born on March 23rd, 1910 in Shinagawa, Tokyo, Japan. His father came from a samurai lineage and his mother from a merchant family. So very humble beginnings. He originally he wanted to be a painter before he got into the world of cinema. So artistry, creativity, that's always been in his soul. He would practice the art of calligraphy and painting, but he transitioned to filmmaking due to becoming what's the right word I'm looking for? Kind of somewhat disillusioned with the political messaging in art. He was very political, Akira Kurosawa. So it's actually quite I couldn't imagine doing this. It would be like me deleting all of my music. He burned all of his works, all of his paintings, all of his art, because he wanted to start his life afresh. He wanted to get into filmmaking. He wanted to get into cinema. And this was a lot because of a personal tragedy that happened in his life. His older brother, who he really, really, really respected and loved, his older brother, who was actually a narrator in several silent films in Japan, took his own life. So Akira Kurosawa, then he felt it was his duty to carry on his brother's legacy. So he got a job as an assistant director at PCL, which would later to become Toho Studios. He found the job the old-fashioned way. LinkedIn didn't exist back in the 1930s, so he found it in a newspaper ad. And through his career, we hear the likes of Tom Cruise, who will study. He studied every aspect of filmmaking. Akira Kurosawa was exactly the same. He led every aspect of filmmaking, not just directing, not just screenwriting, but editing, lighting, setting up a set. He learned all of it. His two main influences, notably, are Shakespeare and Marxist ideology. During the 1930s, Japan was going through massive social and political change at the time. And we would see this in the themes that he would cover, in his works, from class struggles and social inequalities, which can most notably be seen in Seven Samurai, with the peasants versus the samurai, and in High and Low, where you have the working class versus the elites. It's a big part of his storytelling, and this is what we see echoed down to the rebellion versus the empire, the resistance versus the First Order. So when people say, "Oh, Star Wars isn't political," not only is Star Wars political, but the films that influenced it are very political. What do we got here? Another big theme that he would kind of bring into his movies is the idea of ethical dilemmas of the individual as opposed to the kind of collective personal narratives. Humanity over dogma. The biggest of which for Star Wars fans is this theme of personal redemption and individual moral codes. You see Han Solo, he doesn't believe in the Force. He doesn't believe in the big energy field controlling his destiny. But he knows what's right. He knows what's wrong and right. Then you have films like Regrets for Our Youth, which directly challenges authoritarian regimes, and it critiques power structures and bureaucracy. So I'm telling you all this, and you're probably thinking, Matty, how the hell does this relate to Star Wars? Well, if you go back to 2001, George Lucas did an interview with the Criterion Collection, and he once said, "I decided that it would be a nice way to tell the Star Wars story to take the two lowest characters, as Kurosawa did, and tell the story from their point of view. This is a direct parallel to the narrative structure that Akira Kurosawa used in Hidden Fortress, a film told from the perspective of these two bumbling fools, these two idiots. This is mirrored in Star Wars, or A New Hope, however you want to call it, by telling the story through the viewpoint of C-3PO and R2-D2. Continuing on with Hidden Fortress, it often gets cited as the main inspiration for Star Wars. But in fact, George has often said in the past that Hidden Fortress isn't even in the top of his list of Kurosawa films. It was, in fact, Seven Samurai was the one that he favored. And when we look at the themes that connect the two, when we look at the themes that connect Seven Samurai with Star Wars, you have the assembling of a ragtag group of heroes, the banding together to protect the innocent villagers. This is a direct homage that we see during the Mandalorian episode Sanctuary, where Din Djarin trains a group of helpless villagers to defend themselves against a group of raiders. That is a direct homage to Seven Samurai itself. And not only that, but if you look at the story of Star Wars Rebels, Star Wars Clone Wars, you have these groups that are banded together to combat oppression, to band together and help each other, be it the smaller collective or the bigger, greater good. Another theme that's used is heroes that are flawed and have, they are very flawed and conflicting, with the samurai code being the samurai code of Bushido reflecting that of the Jedi code. You have heroes such as Obi-Wan Kenobi, Qui-Gon Jinn, Ahsoka Tano, they very much reflect the character of Sanjuro from the movie Yojimbo. You know, the lone Ronin who's, you know, they act outside of society and even sometimes disobey and go outside of their own order. Han Solo, again, prime example of this. He's very cynical, doesn't believe in the Force. He has his own moral code. He's the charismatic yet reluctant hero that has the least amount of investment in the cause of the rebellion, least invested in the struggles that other people are facing. You know, he just wants to get by. He just needs to get by on his own. He's very much, when you speak to some people about, you know, the events going on in the world today, a lot of just average Joe people will say, well, what can I do about it? There's nothing I can really do. I've got to provide for my family. I've got to provide for myself. And that's very much the role that Han Solo takes on. And but when he does join the rebellion, he becomes the biggest disruptor to it. That's why they have him put in carbonite. You know, he's the one that comes in at the end when it seems like all hope is lost. And he's the one that blows Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, the best pilot in the galaxy, blows him completely out of the trench, sends him flying off. This random scruffy-looking nerf herder. Darth Vader was probably thinking, who the hell is this? And another cool little bit of trivia for you. If we go to the movie Throne of Blood, the character Asajj Ventress was in fact named after the character of Asajj from Throne of Blood. And when we get onto Throne of Blood, if we look at Throne of Blood and Ran, which I just checked, it does celebrate its 40th anniversary this month. Both of these films explore the film of legacy, redemption, and a kind of tragedy of destiny, like a tragic destiny. And you look at the very concept of a lightsaber fight, right? A lightsaber duel, it kind of spawns from Kurosawa's sword fights, representing the clashing of not only two different styles of character, not just two opposing characters, but also two opposing philosophies. The light side versus the dark, the Jedi versus the Sith, the themes of, you know, different ideologies clashing together, almost like a reflection of Kurosawa's ideologies that he believed in, clashing against the imperial ideologies that he grew to hate so much. Another theme that is very, very heavily worn on its sleeve, I guess, that we saw in The Acolyte, heavily uses the themes of truth. What is your truth? What is the truth? What is your truth? You know, we live in a world where, you know, there seems to be a divergence from the truth to the point where there's multiple truths, different perspectives of what truth is. And we see that, again, we see that heavily in The Acolyte. That pulls directly from Rashomon, a film that is the same story told from multiple different and in fact conflicting viewpoints. But I mentioned before, just briefly, Throne of Blood and Ran taking on the themes of, you know, a tragic destiny, a, you know, a final redemption, a personal redemption of the characters. Sorry, my screen just went dark on me for a second there. Bear with me. Okay, there we go. I think I got it. Yeah, cool. PLD, don't edit that out. So with this theme of tragedy, tragic destiny, very directly relates to the story of Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. So we look to the character of Washizu from Kurosawa's Throne of Blood. Beyond the obvious inspiration from the samurai armor design, Washizu he starts off as this beloved general who's known for his incredible prowess in battle, who becomes seduced by these visions of power. You see where I'm going, right? You see where this is coming from. You know, his he has these visions of power, and that his destiny leads him to betray all that he loves and believes in. It leads him to kill his lord, a man that he really loved and respected. It leads him to kill him. He's influenced by this forest spirit, which drives him further into paranoia and ambition, much like Palpatine does to Anakin. Anakin, again, this beloved figure, this respected general, loved by everyone that comes into his life, gives that up for a personal ambition, allows himself to become twisted. Washizu, he's told of we look at the idea of prophecy. Washizu is told of a prophecy that he will rule the Spider's Web Castle. Anakin is part of a prophecy of being the chosen one. It is these destinies that bind them to the choices that eventually lead to their downfalls. And in the end, both of them not just losing what they love, but losing their sense of humanity. Washizu is reduced to this shell of himself to the point where he's killed by his own troops. Anakin, he becomes a shell of a man, a shell of himself, constantly tortured, constantly in pain, ultimately leading to his death at the hands of his own son. So, combining all these themes with Kurosawa's personal interpretations of power dynamics between the oppressed and the oppressors, you know, a big one. If we're looking at more recent projects, you have Rogue One, Andor, this theme of sacrifice without wanting any glory, whether it be from Luthen Rael, I want to, a sunrise that he knows that he'll never see. He'll burn his life for a sunrise he'll never see. Cassian going to Scarif to get these Death Star plans, knowing full well he's probably not going to come back alive. You know, we've seen these in Rogue One and Andor, but all these themes are so Kurosawa coded. His influence is all over the DNA of Star Wars. So this is just kind of a very surface level look into the themes of how Kurosawa has influenced on Star Wars. Maybe one day I'll do a deeper dive into the cinematic, the more like cinematic and movie making side of things. It's not really something that I'm, very clued up on. I may need to, bring in a guest, bring in some friends of mine that are more clued up on the subject. But you've only got to look at Kurosawa's use of wipes going from scene to scene. You've only got to look at that and see the filmmaking and his use of weather to help set tension. You've only got to look at that and see, okay, that's where George got that from. So, and I guess I'll end on a funny little bit of trivia for you guys, a little bit of connectivity. I know PLD will love this. George Lucas actually wanted to cast Toshiro Mifune, who is who can I really compare him to? Toshiro Mifune is the Robert De Niro or the Leonardo DiCaprio to Martin Scorsese. Again, you look at that, having the director and actor combo that you're like, okay, those two go together so perfectly. Akira Kurosawa and Toshiro Mifune were the original of that. Mifune appeared in countless Kurosawa films. George originally wanted him to play Sir Alec Guinness's character of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Toshiro Mifune turned it down because he said it would look too like low budget looking, which is hilarious looking back at it now, because Star Wars essentially changed how filmmaking was made as much as Akira Kurosawa did. So I think it would have been really cool to have had him as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I would love to go back and think, how would the character have been different? Would he have been a bit more, a bit more wacky, a bit more crazy, a little bit more, he's seen some shit. But then we also wouldn't have got Ewan McGregor playing Obi-Wan Kenobi. So it would have been vastly different. Yeah, that's kind of all I've got really. I just wanted to jump on and do this quick, I guess, connection between a filmmaker who I really, really love, again, who I believe to be the greatest filmmaker and the greatest storyteller of all time. As much as I love Hideo Kojima, to me, Kurosawa is the GOAT. George Lucas, heavily, heavily inspired by him. So, yeah, maybe one day I'll go a lot deeper into some character history, how the more of the filmmaking side of things. But I figured a good way to celebrate Rand turning 40 would be to celebrate the connectivity between Kurosawa and samurai movies, and its effect on Star Wars and its effect on movie making. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Please like this video if you want to see more of this. Let us know. Let us know what you think. Have you seen any Akira Kurosawa movies? What are your favorites? Hopefully this will kind of inspire you to go back and watch those movies if you haven't. My personal recommendation to start with would be Seven Samurai. That's the one that I think if anyone is journeying into watching Akira Kurosawa movies for the first time, start with Seven Samurai. In my opinion, it's his absolute masterpiece. It's very long, but I promise you it's over 3 hours long, but I promise you it is well worth sitting through. So yeah, please like this video. Let me know, because I'm going to be kind of the program director of these, more themed episodes. If you want us to bring on a guest, let us know who. Let us know if there's any other filmmaker that you want me or PLD, or me and PLD, to kind of do more of a deep dive into. And who knows, we've got the Michael Clayton retrospective coming up. Maybe we could, I don't know, rewatch Seven Samurai and do a one-to-one comparison. Who knows? Yeah, let us know. Let us know what you want to see from these episodes that are more theme-based. They're going to be, every couple of weeks. So I'm probably going to run short of ideas at some point. So any contribution you guys have, please let us know. Yeah, like, subscribe to us on YouTube, on the YouTube channel here. Sorry, I'm not very good. It's usually PLD that does this part, so having to rely without him doing this is pretty new to me. So yeah, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Join us over on Patreon at patreon.com/PLD Projects. We got a great crew over there. We have a little Facebook chat going on that gets pretty lively in debate right now. Check out other shows on the channel. Class Action, Two Mediocre Middle-Aged Dudes on Film, I believe the new title is called. You got V, where PLD and Lego go through the V franchise. You have Class Action, I think I've already mentioned it, but with me, myself, PLD, Richard Eric Jarvie. Just yesterday, we did the Mission Impossible Battle Royale. It would have been Monday by the time you're seeing this. Go back and check that out. And then you have the sister channel, PLD Projects Crown Jewels, where PLD goes through the entire back catalogue of Queen, front to back. I have no idea where he's on at the moment. Hopefully he'll get to Headlong at some point, because it's one of my favorite Queen songs. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you guys taking the time, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks for the Michael Clayton retrospective.
May the Force be with you, always.